Okay, so here we go with another Batman the Animated Series watch along, and this episode is going to be Zatanna. And this was a pretty special episode because, for one thing, it's an episode that guest stars another DC Comics superhero. This one being Zatanna, who is a fellow member of the Justice League along with Batman. Zatanna has an interesting history. She is the daughter of the Golden Age superhero Zatara the Magician. And in the 1960s, the Silver Age of comics, they were bringing back a lot of these Golden Age superheroes. And some of them, like Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, the Atom, they would take the original characters and kind of update them a bit. They'd get new secret identities, and Hal Jordan became Green Lantern as opposed, Hal Jordan the test pilot as opposed to Alan Scott the radio broadcaster, and you know Jay Garrick. What did Jay Garrick even do for a living? I think he was a scientist also, but Barry Allen as the Flash was a forensic scientist and that sort of thing. They brought back Hawkman and kept Hawkman pretty much the same, except for he had a new origin. Now he was an alien from outer space instead of a reincarnated Egyptian prince. Now he's both, or neither, or whatever. So, and then you had some characters that got brought back, like a lot of your Justice Society characters, like the Sandman came back as he was originally created with the gas mask and the gas gun, not the purple and yellow outfit where he was pretty much like Batman, but not. Or should I say, like Captain America and Sandy was like Bucky, or not, since, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby drew a lot of those Sandman comics. But Starman came back pretty much as we remember him. Then the original Green Lantern, the original Flash, the original Wonder Woman. Eventually, we even got to see an Earth 2 version of Superman and an Earth 2 version of Batman. But apparently, Zatara was a character that existed on Earth 1 because his daughter popped up during the Silver Age. So rather than bring back Zatara himself, they decided to give him a legacy. And Zatanna became more popular than Zatara ever was. And I guess a young kid reading those comics back in the day was named Paul Dini, and Zatanna, excuse me, Zatanna wound up becoming one of his favorite characters, and he wrote her into this episode of Batman the Animated Series. Now, she doesn't actually display any of her supernatural abilities in this. Like Zatanna's power in the comic book, much like her father, is she could say things backwards and they would happen. So, but in this one, she's basically just a stage magician. She's an illusionist, and that's enough for the Batman the Animated Series world. Remember, this was before they even did Superman the Animated Series. So there weren't too many fantastic superpowered characters in this universe, and the few that we had seen so far, people like say Clayface, were mostly villains. So this is the first time on Batman the Animated Series that we've seen Batman team up with another superhero. Obviously besides Robin, but he always teams up with Robin. Robin's like his junior partner. So, but this is the first time we've seen him team up with another superhero that wasn't part of the Bat family, or at least like a direct part of the Bat family. Now, he does also introduce a little more history to the character here, as we'll see, like where Bruce would have trained with Zatara the magician in how to be an escape artist, and that's where he would have actually originally met Zatanna. So so yeah, they do build a little bit of history on that, and that did get kind of retconned into the comic book a little bit when Paul Dini eventually would write Detective Comics. So, and he wrote a lot of Zatanna comics too. And by the way, Paul Dini eventually married a woman who herself was a stage magician. So he married his real life Zatanna. So that's pretty nice. Also, we'll see Zatara the magician himself, and he's played by an actor who he's one of those actors that if you see him in something, you're like, oh yeah, it's that guy. he was in a lot of Milos Forman movies, including One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was a regular in Milos Forman movies. A guy by the name of Vincent Schiavelli. Now, also when he worked on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, one of his co-stars in that obviously was Jack Nicholson, the main character, who went on to play the Joker. But also another Batman villain in that cast was Danny DeVito. And Vincent Schiavelli and Danny DeVito were very good friends, and he managed to get him. Danny DeVito managed to get him a part in another movie he was starring in called Batman Returns. So he plays the organ grinder in Batman Returns. So this is not Vincent Schiavelli's only time interacting with the Batman universe. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. So we got the Warner Brothers logo, and it fades into the police blimp, and we pan down to see our bank. And here come our shifty-eyed characters, and then bank explodes. All right, and we're getting started here. So the first time that Batman met Zatanna in the comic books is an interesting thing to discuss because they did a Justice League story where the storyline that introduced Zatanna in the comics was her looking for her father, and this caused her to guest star in a few different comics DC had going on: Green Lantern, The Atom, and she appeared in one of the backup strips with the Elongated Man. So when she was looking for help to find Zatanna, she met these heroes, and in the issue of Justice League, she could only get a hold of heroes that she'd already met. Oh yeah, Hawkman was one of them. And since the Batman TV show was big at the time, directed by Dick Seabass and Dan Reba, so two directors in this episode. So they wanted to have Batman in there because they wanted to have Batman on the covers because Batman was selling comics because the TV show was big at the time. So they retconned a story where Batman fought a witch so that the witch was actually Zatanna in disguise and had to come up with this whole reason. Well, oh, no, I wasn't attacking you. I was actually helping you, and here's why. And this whole convoluted thing. But maybe if Paul Dini was around, he could have just been like, no, she met Batman when they were teenagers because he trained with Zatanna. That is an interesting button scheme on Bruce's shirt there. Sassy Alfred is the best Alfred. So this is comedian Julie Brown, not to be confused with Downtown Julie Brown. This is a completely different Julie Brown that also had a show on MTV. You might remember her from Clueless. She played the gym teacher. But she does the voice of Zatanna. She was apparently good friends with Paul Dini, so he I guess was like, you should totally play this character. That's a nice animation there.
Congratulations. You've beaten your old time by 6 seconds.
Zatanna is even drawn to look a little bit like Vincent Schiavelli.
I'm sorry you're going to be moving on.
Same here. It was an honor to study with you, Zatanna.
But to what end? 3 months ago, you appeared on my doorstep with no interest in performing, and yet dying to become.
He's got like the same hairstyle like Zatanna had in the comics, and the mustache and everything. But the way they do his eyes and the shape of his face and the shape of his nose and everything, he looks a lot like Vincent Schiavelli. Vincent Schiavelli, I don't think ever had a head of hair like that. He was always bald on up top like me.
John Smith.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything, sir.
I'll miss you, John. And so I trust Will Zatanna.
Oh, hi, Daddy.
But I like the stories like this where you get to see some of Bruce's training and get into his background. Where it was a little more than, His butler taught him how to box.
I'm leaving for Japan tomorrow. There's still a lot I have to learn.
Boy, that's you. One big serious
Speaking of which,
schoolwork.
Day of the Samurai is coming up. Love that episode. Looking forward to that.
Here, pick a card. I'll tell your future. I see emotion, intensity, 2 of hearts.
Oh, that's ominous.
Oh, it's a dumb trick anyway.
They even used the Jerry Robinson Joker card.
You're the only one who ever calls me Zatanna. I really hate it.
Huh.
No goodbye hug? See? It's not so bad.
I'll write you.
No, you won't.
I promise.
You can't. I locked your hands to the wall.
What?
Yeah.
Looks like someone's missing their plane tomorrow. But hey, if you're any kind of escape artist, you'd be out of those cuffs and through the door by now. Now you see him. Now you don't.
Almost got him.
Thank you. You know, I have this little problem with money. Seems like it disappears before I even make it.
Now, unfortunately, because of the nature of animation, they were unable to give Zatanna her iconic fishnets.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Montague Kane, he looks familiar, don't he?
This is so exciting.
Whoa. Let me guess.
Careful there,
first time on
clumsy.
stage, Irv? Nothing like enthusiasm, right, folks?
The way they're responding, one would think your ridiculous stunt was going to work.
Just to clue you in, Monty here makes a living exposing magicians' secrets.
Typical tricks and nonsense.
But yeah, he's obviously drawn to look like Orson Welles.
Secret of the feat I'm attempting tonight.
There is no secret. What you're proposing is flat out impossible.
Well,
Sounds like Michael York again. Is that Michael
I'm
York?
about.
We'll
Mr.
find out when we
Foster,
get to the ending credits.
Open the doors, please. $10 million and the means to make it.
Ah,
Take a good look, folks, because you know what they say about money. Easy come, easy go.
Bravo, my dear. It was a pleasure to be proven wrong.
Thank you, Monty. And now, just so Irv doesn't have a fit, I'll bring it back good as new. Arba de Carba!
oh,
Where's the money?
but the money's gone.
It's right there, isn't it?
Uh-oh.
What have you done with it?
Now, take it easy, Irv. I'm sure there's a perfectly logical explanation.
And I'm sure the audience would like to hear it, as would the police.
Now, wait a minute.
Police! Police!
Wow.
Look, it's a trick, an illusion. I don't know what went wrong, but if we can all just calm down.
A cop car pulled up on stage. Just immediately in the handcuffs. Dramatic music.
This never happens to me in Vegas.
She's been set up. Obviously. But as she's the only suspect, the police must hold her. Giving the real thief time to escape. I can't let that happen. And more important, you can't desert an old friend.
It just seems like that escalated really quickly, you know? But Batman don't care about the law. Batman only cares about justice. Looks like somebody pulled an escape act.
Nice car.
Thanks.
You know, I didn't love the idea of spending the night in jail, but this does technically make me a fugitive. I believe I'm looking at some prison time now.
I heard about the mint robbery. I can help prove you didn't do it.
Why do you care about some leggy dame in nylons? Or have I answered my own question?
If you want to go it alone.
No, I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day.
I'm sure whoever framed you knew how your trick was done. They may have left a clue at the mint.
So the first time I ever saw Zatanna, like, would have been in Justice League issues, and she would have been wearing that George Perez designed costume, the one with the bug on her head. And that's not a bad costume, but you can't beat the white tie and tails and the top hat and the fishnets. That's the classic version. That's what, I kind of feel like she should just always look like that. And I see people try to come up with something new, and they've never been able to top it. Top hat, top it. I didn't even mean to make that joke. But when I first saw that particular costume, would have been when I was buying some old comic books from the comic book store and just looking for some Batman stuff I could pick up for cheap. And I got one of those 100-page issues of Detective Comics. This would have been during the run with Manhunter, around that era. And one of the comics reprinted in it was a story with the Atom, and it was one of the stories where he teamed up with Zatanna. And when I saw Zatanna in that costume for the first time, I just fell in love. So I kind of know what Paul Dini's talking about.
Only another magician would have known how to rig that trick.
Or someone who knows their methods. Like Montague Kane.
He's been ripping off illusionists for years. I thought I finally had a trick even he couldn't expose. Wrong.
And he was just acting like suspicious AF anyway.
Oh no. Kane played me for a sap, and I'll see him go down for it.
All right. But it could be dangerous. You're sure there's no one you want to call first? Friends, family, husband, maybe?
Husband, maybe.
Who's got time for a relationship when you're pulling rabbits out of a hat 52 weeks a year?
Yeah.
Besides,
He's still interested.
Going now that Dad's gone.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Why?
I saw him perform when I was younger. He was great.
Thanks. I have the weirdest feeling we've met before.
I just have that kind of face.
You're wearing a mask, bro. That's a nice dissolve. A little bit of multiplane going on there. Uh-oh, electric eye. You would think Batman would have caught that. I'm pretty sure that's Michael York.
Come in and join me by the fire.
That would explain why they didn't get Maurice LaMarche. You just had Maurice LaMarche in the last episode, and now you got an Orson Welles type, and you didn't bring him back. Oh well, can't complain about Michael York.
It's a trap.
Uh-oh.
A trifle cliched, I know, but effective nonetheless.
Yeah.
You briefly savor your fleeting triumph.
He was dealing with this stuff in the 1960s.
Comfortable surroundings. And you?
And we got our commercial break. But Batman always has a way to get out of a trap. I like him climb up the spikes. That's pretty clever. You gotta have a real flair for the dramatic to put something like that into your house.
I always did know how to make an exit. Unfortunately,
That was an odd shot. I liked it, but it was odd.
I am leaning toward more comfortable surroundings.
Magician's Rue.
Come on. The show's not over yet.
Kind of reminds me of a later episode. Actually, it's technically an episode of Superman, but it was, the world's finest team up, where they have the flying wing and that, and Joker has Harley painted to look like a smile.
The only place you're heading is to a prison cell.
Well done, Batman. You not only eluded my trap, but solved my clue as well. Get rid of him.
You're no Riddler, dude. Watch out, you're a fat guy. You're a fat guy in a Batman the Animated Series episode.
oh, Monty, you fell for the second oldest trick in the book. And here's the...
Now, when she later appears on Justice League, she does have her supernatural powers in those episodes. But I guess she hasn't figured out that, she's got those powers yet at this point.
I could be persuaded to spare you.
They gave her a very distinctive face, and
Oh,
they're usually pretty good about giving the characters distinctive faces, but she's got just a slightly thinner upper lip. I think she was probably based on Betty Page, since Betty Page had a slightly thinner upper lip.
with all reverence for the departed, Zatanna himself couldn't escape those.
And she's also not wearing her top hat through most of this
Well,
episode.
between the two of you, you might be able to.
Again, probably for ease of animation.
Before you hit the water.
But she had it on long enough to establish it, so.
Take my hand.
Scared? It makes two of us.
Trust me, Zana.
Sana?
So do you think he called her Zana
In my glove.
purposefully to let her know that he was John Smith, that she remembered from her teenage years? Or do you think it was just maybe a slip and that Batman just kind of fell back into old habits? It's interesting to think about. Love that little music piece there. The thing that I like about this episode is that if you were unfamiliar with the character, she still works. I loved seeing her because she was a character that I knew from the comics and had always enjoyed her appearances in the comics. But I can imagine, a kid, like a 7 or 8 year old kid who maybe had never even read a Batman comic yet at this point, watching this episode. Zatanna still fits right into the world of Gotham City. She's just like a supporting character, like we've seen lots of times on this show. It works. Denny O'Neil said that he felt like any time that Batman did a crossover with another character, he tried to think of that character as if it was a character they were creating to appear in a Batman comic book. Like Batman versus Predator, how does Predator make sense in the world of Gotham City? Batman versus the Punisher, obviously he fits in perfectly. because he's that kind of like gritty noir vigilante type character, and kind of an opposite number for Batman. So here we have a Zatanna that's like, if Zatanna was a character that didn't exist and they created her to be a Batman character, it would be this version of the character. And I think they did a great job with her, both in terms of the way she's written and in terms of the design. And Julie Brown does a great job playing the character. I was kind of disappointed when she didn't come back for Justice League Unlimited. But I don't remember who the voice actress was that played her in that. She did a fine job, so I don't mean to besmirch her. But still, I would have liked to have heard Julie Brown's voice again. I thought she did a great job. Uh-oh. But they can't die, so we got to follow them all the way around and then see them fall into the water. They're fine. They're not dead at all.
Don't you know? A magician never does the same trick.
They're just as alive as General Zod at the end of Superman 2. And Orson Welles got arrested. I mean, Montague Kane.
So, you never wrote.
I meant to, really.
Hey, it's okay. I can see you've been busy. Just answer an old friend one question.
Shoot,
What happened that made you put this on?
a painful memory. And a promise.
I'd say you're keeping that promise pretty well. And for what it's worth, Dad would have been proud of you tonight.
You too. Can I give you a ride?
Here, response. And then she vanishes on him. Did I say she didn't have any supernatural powers?
I hate goodbyes too. Love, Zana.
A little something for his
Yes.
trophy room.
Don't forget to write.
I like to think that when they expanded the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, that it would have been Batman himself that would have contacted Zatanna and asked her to join. Okay, so yep, that was Michael York. All right, so Bruce W. Timm was Red. So Kevin Conroy is Batman, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. is Batman, Julie Brown as Zatanna, Zael Kessler as Fonswater, Vincent Schiavelli as Zatara, Bruce W. Timm as Red, and Michael York as Dr. M. Kane. So yeah, that was a very enjoyable episode. Like I said, it was really nice to see Zatanna, and this was the first time Zatanna had ever appeared in any medium outside of comics. I believe she never appeared on Super Friends or anything like that. So yeah, it was really. I gotta figure that a lot of the popularity that Zatanna enjoys today would have come from this episode, where a lot of people would have been exposed to her for the first time, and you know, afterwards, she got brought back in the comics, and she was wearing the classic costume again. And I think it was an issue of Adventures of Superman, like around this same time, and it all uphill from there. Basically, they wound up trying to redesign her costume a little bit in the New 52, and she had something where she was wearing like leather pants and a corset, and I'm like, no, it just doesn't work as well. It's not a bad outfit necessarily, but it doesn't work as well as the fishnets. And then Jim Lee designed a costume that was kind of like somewhere in between the classic magician outfit and the George Perez outfit I was talking about earlier. Basically, he just took the bug off of her head and swapped out all the blue for black and put some fishnets back onto the outfit. And that was, I thought, a pretty good costume. I didn't like it as well as the original one again, but but I still thought it was pretty good. It was definitely a step in the right direction. So I believe she's worn the original costume again in the comics since those days, but I don't remember if there's been any other ones since then. But I got to imagine, like, anytime, like the same with Power Girl, anytime they try to change her out of that original costume, it's only temporary. She always winds up going back to the classic. Anyway, let's see. What's our next episode to watch of Batman the Animated Series? And it's going to be Robin's Reckoning. So the origin of Robin. I don't know when I'm going to watch it. So because I know that my schedule's kind of up in the air for tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll have a chance to do it tomorrow. Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be working 12-hour shifts at my day job, so probably not going to have time to do that. So if it's not tomorrow, it'll be Monday at the earliest. And even then, I might be so worn out on Monday, I might not actually watch it. So but at some point I'll be watching Robin's Reckoning Part 1 and 2, and that'll be one solid episode. And if you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure that you like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. Hit the little bell if you want to be warned anytime I go live. It'll give you notifications. It'll pop up on your phone and annoy the heck out of you. So that way you make sure you don't miss me when the episode happens. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's definitely one of the better episodes. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in there for longtime comic book fans. It's a really good one. So anyway, you don't want to miss that. And I should have more action figure unboxings coming up soon. I'm probably actually gonna open this guy. Like I'm not gonna do a video of it because I've already done a video of it. But if you want to see me do the video of it, you can go back and check that in my back catalog. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. We will talk to you next time. Bye. Are you going to end the stream? You going to end it? There we go.